Wanting to know what's going on in Boise's housing market? Well, we have a treat for you this week because it's our October 2020 Market Dynamics Update. Hello, thank you for tuning in to this week's segment of Market Watch. I'm Joshua Barks with Keller Williams Realty Boise and the Barks & Co. Real Estate Team. Here's this month's update on October 2020 market dynamics. So everything that's happened in the resale side of our housing market in the Boise area. So here you go. Okay, so we have October 2020 market dynamics and talking about everything that's going on in the Boise area housing market. So Ada County, so the Boise and the surrounding municipalities that we're talking about with the existing home sales. So the resale side of things, not talking about new construction because that market behaves a little bit differently, but I really just wanted to give you guys a great look at really what's happening in those monthly market numbers because that gives us a really good picture. So first, I like to start with the market dynamics that we saw this time last year, so 2019, because that'll give us a really good comparison to what we normally see in a non-COVID, non-election year compared to what's happening right now. So as you can see in the market trends chart in this upper left-hand corner, October of 2019, we had 794 homes on the market, 740 pending, and 741 sales in the month of October. And then in 2018, the year before that, we had 773 closed, 712 pending with 914 available and on the market. And so the lowest inventory months that we see every year because of the seasonality of this are typically December, January, and February. So with 551, 504, and 534 available homes. Then we have inventory come up along with demand and those sales for spring market. A little bit of a plateau in inventory levels through the summer months. And then we dip a little bit as people settle down for the holidays. And then we just start the process over. That's typically what we see on a normal seasonal cycle. So with the average sold price overall, last year, as of January 2019 to November 5th of 2019, we had appreciated 6.2% in our average sales price. With an average month supply, our inventory rates of 1.2 months available homes, and an average of 25 days on market. Now, when we look at the overall for October of 2020, this is a significantly different year than what we were experiencing last year. So our market has changed significantly as well because our low inventory months that we were seeing during our last winter with 402 available homes in December, 374 in January, and then 337 in February. That was incredibly low inventory then. We had a slight increase during our COVID shutdown area. And then, of course, as we all know, inventory has been steadily declining and declining and declining. So this October, as of the 4th of November, which we know is election day, we had 172 homes on the market. So for the first time in our recorded history, Ada County had 172 homes available on the market. The first time that we've been below 200 that we've seen since our numbers were recorded in the early 2000s. So when we look at that, we go, oh my goodness, that is insane, especially because I predicted that our floor was going to be in the early 200s, the 230s that we were kind of bouncing around the last couple weeks. Now, this is likely due to the election because as a listing agent, as well as a buyer's agent, man, I would never recommend a seller list their home this week unless they needed to, because everyone is so distracted with what's going on with the election that I'd either recommend let's hit the market last week or let's wait until next week to get on the market, just because this week everyone's attention is going to be focused on the election and not necessarily buying a house. Now, I don't mean that there aren't any people out there, because there are definitely people out there. In fact, I've had showings most of the week as well. But I do know that significantly fewer eyeballs are going to be on listings. So getting top dollar is likely not going to happen as much this week as it would if you waited 1 week or came on a week earlier. So that's likely why we saw inventory dip below that 200 number for the first time. I did pull numbers last night at midnight, like I always do, and we did have above 200 at that time. So to give you a little bit of an example there, we are likely still going to be increasing into the 200s. Then when we go into demand, we had 774 pending with 878 sales, whereas last year we had 740 pending and 741 sales. So it's really interesting to see how demand is really continuing to outpace supply and the number of actual sales that we're having, even though we have fewer homes than we've ever had, is still consistently higher than what we saw this same time last year when we had an incredibly tight inventory market. So our sales so far for the last several months have been at least 100 more sales this year than we had the same time last year, which is incredible. With interest rates, the housing market, and all of the in-migration that we've been having, the housing market, as far as supply and demand goes, demand is not projected to go anywhere anytime soon. And inventory, I really, really hope, starts to come up a little bit to try to feed some of that demand that we're getting, because that's why everything is just going for multiples and a lot of times significantly over asking price. So if your house is on the market and it's not selling right now, there's something wrong, and it is probably price. Because even though it's literally never been a better time to sell based on current market conditions, if your house is overpriced, it's overpriced. People don't want it. So you just have to consider that. It's either price, condition, location, or marketing. So you either need to increase your marketing, but you can't change your location. You can change your conditions. So maybe think about doing some touch-ups or some paint here and there or something like that. Or most often it's just price. So when we go into speaking of price, when we go into the average sold price and what we're seeing out there, if you might remember from a couple seconds ago, October of 2019 had an average appreciation of 6.2% since January 1. And we are we are more than double that. Excuse my math. 13.2% so far this year. And last month, we had officially broken that 400,000 average sales price for all of Ada County mark at 401 and some change. Now we're at 410, 414. So if you're a buyer right now and you've just been on the sidelines like, I'll just wait, well, every month it is costing you, because last month we were at 10 point something percent in the average sales price, and now we're at 13.2. And while early this year I predicted that we were going to end the year around this 11.5, 10% by the end of the year, because appreciation was showing signs of slowing due to our extremely low supply and our super high demand, our prices are appreciating. That's just standard economics there. So waiting might be costing you money, especially because, like I said, interest rates are significantly low. Now, when we go into what's happening, price points over all categories in the existing housing market, wow. We had 1.2 months supply this same time last year. Last month, we had 0.4 supply. And so right now we're at 0.2, which is incredibly low as well. So all the way up to $1 million sales price in Ada County, we have less than a month's supply, which is absolutely bonkers. And then 1.6 months supply for above $1 million. So we really need that inventory number to come up, which has also created our days on market to decrease as well. We had 25 days as the average days on market across all price points this time last year. Last month, I believe it was 23 days, and now we're at 21 days. So as you can see, the average asking price right now in all price points is $693,306. The average pending or listing that is marked pending, I should say, not necessarily the price that they are pending at, is $495,881. And then, of course, the average sold price for the last 12 months is $410,414. So we're still on a significant track to appreciate, especially because I look at this as the asking price, what sellers are hoping for, what they're potentially getting, and what they're ending up with. So we're still on a trajectory to have a very strong market into the holidays, likely towards the end of next spring. And if you hadn't been around for my projection before, I do anticipate that we will appreciate by the end of May, so through the spring market next year, another 5% from whatever we end this year with. Now, this year, with the 13% being higher than what I had projected as well overall, man, it's entirely possible that we see another, let me go back one slide, we see another 16%. Sorry about that, 16.9% again versus that 10% that we've kind of been seeing before that. So that is just another unprecedented year. Now, when we're talking about interest rates, again, they hit another historic low, 2.78 for the 30-year fixed, according to Freddie Mac. We were at 2.8. That was the previous low. So it's just hovering right around that 2.8. A lot of it likely has to do with, the election uncertainty and things like that. The housing market is really what is bringing our economy through this recession, and it is bolstering it and pushing things right along there. So things are still looking great on the interest rate side. So if you're not selling, not in the market to buy, but you own your home, fantastic time to refinance. I know I've been saying that for months, but it's still a fantastic time to refinance. And if you need help finding a good lender to get you some, not only great rates, but great terms, just let me know. I'm happy to refer you to some great lenders that I've worked with and that my clients have had amazing success with in the past. So that's what we're here for. So additionally, I know I brought this slide up a few videos ago when we were talking about how is the election going to influence our housing market. And I just think, especially because it's election week right now, that it's so important to cover again, just briefly. So what we typically see during presidential election years on a national level, so not talking about the Boise area specifically, but on a national level, from 1963 to 2019, presidential election years based on the number of sales are down 15% month over month from October to November. And that's what we see as the impact from election. Now, as you remember, going into, especially here locally, when we go into the holidays, we typically do see fewer sales the month of November than October. And that's just typical going into the holidays. Things are slowing down a little bit in the housing market. Now, non-presidential election years you see are usually down 9.8%, so almost 10% from the number of homes that sold in November to October. So with presidential election years, we basically see a 5% difference in the number of sales. So 5% fewer sales the month of October versus the month of November. So we're going to have to wait to see really what happens in November. But with everything that's going on, again, going to go back a few slides, with everything that's going on out there and what we're seeing in this month over month, with the number of sales actually being significantly higher than what we had the year previously. For several months now, we've been seeing that. I anticipate the election to really not make that big of a difference on the buying activity. Though I know some people will be on the sidelines, and oftentimes what happens during these presidential election years is the people that were going to buy or that typically would buy in the fall just put their plans on pause and they end up buying in the spring again, which is one of the reasons why I do project our prices to continue to appreciate well into the spring months. So if you're thinking about buying and you want to wait till the end of spring, if you can afford it right now, it might be a good idea to get on the bandwagon and start looking before prices are even higher than what they are. And if interest rates come up even just a little bit, that it might be incredibly more expensive just to wait a little bit. So when people are asking me all the time, when is it the best time to buy or sell? It really comes down to, do you have a good enough reason to move? Can you afford it? And man, if you answer yes to both of those questions, just talk to your real estate professional. I'm always here to be your guide as well. I'm happy to sit down with anybody that's thinking about it and wants to put a plan in place, or just talk about what they need to do in order to get a plan in place to buy, 1 to 5 years down the road. So if you're thinking about buying or selling, contact your real estate professional of choice, especially if you have a good enough reason to move and you can afford it. Right now has literally never been a better time to sell. If you have any questions about what's going on in the housing market in general, or want to talk real estate or about your plans and what's good for you and your family, of course, always reach out to me. My number is 208-914-1095. You can always email me as well. My email address is right here. And then, visit my website, see what we can offer. And I look forward to helping you with all of your real estate needs. All right, so there you have it. That's everything that's taken place in October 2020, as well as a little bit of a comparison to what happened this same time last year so that you know a little bit more about what's going on. As always, please let me know what questions you have. You can comment on this video, send me an email, or call or text. And I look forward to talking to you next week and bringing you the week over week numbers for what happened election week compared to next week. We'll see you then.